Thank you very much. It's a bit of a lonely job being an MD of an oil company at a conference for the mining companies, but we've got a good story to tell, and we'll tell it to you. First off, the disclaimer. I urge you to read it. I've yet to read one of all my other companies that I've had a look at. The story. About just under 2 years ago, a new board was put into Triangle Energy. Here's the standard rogues gallery. You can see the top three are, well, they look quite old. Some of us have hair. It's all grey. The lower three, they don't look like that anymore. They've all got grey hair as well. The takeaway point is we're experienced oil professionals. We've taken this company and we're turning it around and we're doing something different with it. We have ground in the Perth Basin. So at the moment, we have an offshore oil field. We're producing through a pipeline to shore. We're exporting the oil. It's a reasonable business, but it's a late life field and we need to do something with it. The excitement that's going to come up are those two onshore blocks in the North Perth Basin. So our company has an ASX code of TEG, T-E-G. We have a market cap of about 28 million. I think it's 30 at the moment. And we have $7 million cash as at the end of last quarter and $4 million holding in a coal seam methane company. The location of the Perth Basin assets is near all the newly explored defined gas. And there's a lot of gas being found in the Perth Basin. It's probably the hottest bit of land in Australia at the moment. We have a deal to sell the Cliffhead oil field, so I won't spend too much time on this, but we had to devise an export route, and we've completed that export route. What do we do with the field when it gets to the end of its economic life? That's probably 3 years away. It's a real shame to pull it all out. There's about, $350 million worth of kit there. So we, with our partners Pilot, have applied to turn it into a carbon sequestration project. We'll take carbon dioxide from the onshore Perth Basin, from the gas fields there, and we'll put it into the old oil field. Now, this is all very well. We would really like to make ourselves into a mid-cap oil and gas company. Our partners Pilot want to be a green energy company. We've agreed to sell it to them. There are two conditions precedent, and I think those are extremely likely to be fulfilled in the first part of next year. My best guess is end of the first quarter. At that point, we will remove an abandonment liability from over our heads. We will receive cash from Pilot. We're going to get $15 million in staged payments, and we'll go our own ways. And we've been a bit like competitors in a three-legged race. It's difficult. If we untie ourselves, we're both going to go fine and a lot faster. Let's talk about the Perth Basin. Onshore blocks were just to the north of the extremely large Waitsia gas field, 1 trillion cubic feet of gas operated by Beach and Mitsui. Just down to the southeast of us is the Lockyer Deep gas field and the North Erregulla gas field operated by Mineral Resources, even bigger company. And just south of that is West Erregulla, operated by Strike. We shot 3D over this last year, and then we farmed out. So we've bought in Talon Energy for 25%, New Zealand Oil and Gas for 25%. They're going to pay for the seismic, and they're going to pay most of the costs of drilling 3 wells. We're aiming to drill those wells next year. We're going to have to tip maybe $3 million into the tin to drill 3 wells. There'll be 2 gas wells and 1 oil well. Let's look into this in a little bit more detail. From the 3D seismic, we've identified a whole load of really interesting prospects. We've detailed the top 3 in an ASX release. We'll come out with some more fairly soon. If you look at the biggest one, the top of that list, It's a prospect called Booth. It's over on the eastern side of the block. That has a most likely or mid-case prospective resource of 280 billion cubic feet of gas. That is worth, according to our economics and transactional evidence, $560 million. We have a 50% interest in that. We're going to drill it for essentially free, and we calculate a chance of success of 25%. Now, after we did that, I had my guys go out and say, with recent drilling on three-dimensional seismic in the Perth Basin, what's the success rate? And they came back and said 60%. That blew me away. We've been really conservative here. In the next door block, we have a nice big oil prospect. This is the Because prospect. It's got a mid-case of 5 million barrels. Oil's worth a lot of money. Oil can come on stream and be produced very easily. Again, we have a 50% interest in that and carried drilling costs. So what's been going on in the Perth Basin lately? There's been a lot of activity. Norwest Energy had a 20% interest in one gas discovery, Lockyer Deep. They were bought by Mineral Resources for $450 million. Warrego had a 50% interest in one gas field, West Erregulla. They were bought by Hancock Prospecting, a somewhat larger company, for $440 million. And Talon have a 50% interest in a quite modest gas field just off the south of this map. They were bought by Strike for about $140 million. You can see there's a trend here. Now, the companies that are drilling in the Perth Basin at the moment, the smallest company is Strike Energy with $1 billion market cap. We have a sub $30 million market cap. If Strike or Beach or Mitsui drill a gas well, it doesn't move their share price. If we find a gas discovery, make a gas discovery at Booth, that's going to put a zero on our market cap. Now that makes us one of the best companies to go and invest in the Perth Basin, or my personal view anyway. And if we make a discovery, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to see what the likely outcome is. Now this next slide is really a lot of interest to me. We all know that the gas market on the East Coast is problematic. What doesn't really get into the news very much is the gas market on the West Coast of Australia is a mess. So this is how we make up our energy at the moment. So the yellow's solar. Solar does great from about 8 in the morning till 4. Coal does about 30% in the summer, does about 30% in the winter. Solar doesn't do much in the winter. Wind doesn't do much in the winter. Gas in blue is a swing producer. Gas is about 30% in the summer and about 40% in the winter. Now, we're going to get rid of coal. There isn't anything that's going to replace that apart from gas. So if you look at what's going on in WA, this is the latest Australian Energy Market Operators report. And it shows at the moment we're short of gas, and in the future it's going to get a whole load worse. So the domestic gas fields supplying Perth are in decline. One of them's shut in already. Those 3 coal-fired power stations I've got up there, they're going between 2025 and 2029. Now, a betting man would say that they're not going to close them down in that time frame, but they are going to close them down. So what's happening to the gas price is it's trebled in 3 years, and it's not going to stop anytime soon. So it's a great time to find gas, or indeed oil, it must be said, and sell it into the Perth market. Now, with the best will in the world, we can't make a broad-based, long-futured oil company with 3 blocks in the Perth Basin. So we have to look out and bring in new ventures so we have depth of prospectivity. And we were looking around Australia and Australasia, and I'll come to that later. There was a bit of a shock last year when the UK worked out that their supply of cheap Russian gas wasn't going to last forever. And the Conservative government there reacted by putting everything they've got in a licence round. It wasn't a focus area, but it's too good to walk past. Now, you may understand from my accent that I have a background in the UK. We pulled in friends, colleagues, people we've worked with. We said, look, we want to get into this. Can we joint venture? We've applied with 3 groups of companies for 4 groups of blocks. One of those applications has come up. And we've been awarded a gas field, the Cragganmore gas field, off the west coast of Scotland. It's 500 billion cubic feet of discovered gas sitting out there. It was drilled in 2012. It was uneconomic then. The orange blocks have been picked up by Shell. Shell have another 500 billion cubic feet of gas. We have to get together, have a conversation. If you put those two 500s together, you've got an economic project. And you can see what the UK's done to their gas reserves and their oil reserves over the last 10 years. It's easy to rely on somebody else until that somebody else goes away. As I said, we've been looking around Australia, we've been looking in Asia. We have a background in Asia. I've lived in Asia 4 times working for oil companies. It's a great place to work. They really want oil and gas companies there, which is not something I can necessarily say about this country. We've looked at those 3 countries. We have applied for a couple of assets in the Philippines. We're getting one in. It's a gas-prone block. It's onshore. It's going to be low cost to explore. It's about 300 kilometers from Manila, and there's a gas pipeline there already. Now, the Philippines is in an interesting situation. They have 30% of their power comes from gas, comes from one field, and that field is in serious decline. They're going to start importing LNG. Their price of gas is going to treble. That's why we're there. So to wrap up, as a company, we don't make big promises. We say what we honestly think is going to happen in a reasonable time frame. And then we go and do it. And if you meet one of our investors out here and talk to them, they'll back you up on that. Or back me up, rather. What's coming up? Towards the end of this year, we might get some more new ventures in. We're preparing for drilling. What's the exciting thing is we're going to drill that gas well, 2nd quarter of next year. It's my best estimate, and we'll complete the Cliffhead divestment. So when the Cliffhead is divested, we're going to jump in our share price, we'll get some cash in. If that well comes in, it's a serious jump in our share price. Thank you very much, and if you have any questions, please come round to our booth and have a chat with either myself or Greg Hancock, our chairman. We're here to talk and answer questions. Thank you.